Going in 10. 3, 2, 1, go.
I was like in the kitchen meal prepping, and Justin was like, "Is that you breathing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Is it?" And I like try to hold my breath. I'm like, I don't think I realized I was breathing so louder. Our finger guns.
That's how we'll end it. Welcome back, everyone, to the Salty Cast. Today we are talking to Trish Zizumbo. We already kind of went into with Justin Zizumbo. If you haven't watched that, go back and watch it. We already talked about how Salty Hive came about. So now we're going to talk about Trish's journey. And I know that when Salty Hive started, you were full-time elsewhere. You were full-time at, I think it was Unite, and you also had done some, PE and all of those things. What made the switch from you doing that to switching over to full-time gym owner, coach, etc.?
So when we took over the gym, I was working at a fitness camp, and I was running the fitness portion of it because it's broken down into fitness and wellness. And so I ran like the boot camp style, the strength training, all of that. And when we took over a business, it was kind of, I didn't want to help, not that I didn't want to help support another business, but if I was going to put all of my energy into trying to grow a business, it was kind of a no-brainer to help the business that my husband was running versus somebody else. And so I think that being invested in your own business was a little bit more effective versus trying to do a business for somebody else. So that was kind of the first step. I would say the biggest part of that, because I left Unite, came to Salty Hive, and then took a PE teaching job, and then came back to just Salty Hive. And kind of during that journey, I think it's been hard to put all of my effort into Salty Hive. A part of it, I would say, is like, it's Justin's thing. Like, I want that to be your thing, your baby, you kind of take care of that. With also part of that, like me kind of wanting my own thing as well. And like relying on not really having like a regular paycheck, because it's like when you own your business, you don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. And so that was like really scary for like the first years. Just like I felt like I could have done more. And so I've always wanted to experience being in the school system. And I had experience with fitness and with kids because we teach the kids class here. So I was just like, a PE position would be perfect. So I took that job as a part-time gig and realized it was way more work than I really wanted it to be. And it was taking away what I was doing at Salty Hive. And that's why I left my last job. And so it was just like, I didn't want to just leave the PE teaching job because it was hard and I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do with our business. So I committed to finishing out the school year. So I did a full school year with the PE job. And it was like, okay, I've learned my lesson. If I'm going to be fully invested at Salty Hive, like it would be too challenging to try and do other things. So I feel like I needed to have that experience to like really realize what impact I could have here, whether that was my coaching, my one-on-ones, my nutrition, whatever that might be. It's just like I can't really do any more if I'm doing something else. So I feel like that's when it was like, okay, if I'm going to be here, I need to like be fully invested and not be so worried about, having a regular paycheck or making my own money versus our money. And I think that that's been something that we've learned since the beginning, and maybe a little bit of a struggle for me is I like to earn my own money. And it's just when you're a partner and you run a business, again, it's just very different. So it's just like, I feel like making that transition, it's been, how long have we been running the gym? 6 years now. So it's just like during that 6 years, it's gone in phases, but I would say I finally feel like I'm in a place that it's just like Salty Hive is my place that I want to help grow and put my energy into, and not so much necessarily other things that are outside of Salty Hive.
Right, I love that. You did mention in there that you always were like, well, I also kind of want my own thing, which I would kind of consider you do have your own thing. You also are like pretty deep into the nutrition coaching. So could you tell us your journey through nutrition coaching, what it looks like to be a nutrition client with you, and kind of just go through that?
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, just to kind of start off with my own nutrition, I think, and maybe you can agree with this, it's just like everyone goes through their own nutrition journey. And I feel like you don't really know what's going to work for you until you try a number of different things. And so I kind of just tried different things when it came to nutrition. When I first started CrossFit, paleo was a big thing. So I kind of dabbled with paleo. Whole30 was a big thing as well, where it's just like, okay, I'm going to eliminate all these processed foods and I'm only going to eat whole foods. And then as you learn more in CrossFit, it's just like we eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar. It's just like that all kind of just came together. And when I started learning more about nutrition, I had a friend who was nutrition coaching, Jordan, and I had no idea that was like a thing that people did. And so I kind of started working with her when it came to nutrition, because when my knowledge with nutrition was to eat really clean. And so it's just like trying to eliminate processed foods, eat fruits and vegetables, lean meats or quality meats. And with Jordan, I was trying to be a competitive athlete, and I didn't know how to eat as a competitive athlete, because even growing up as an athlete, it was just like I just could eat whatever I wanted, because it's just like I was 16, 17, 18, or 19 years old. So with Jordan, she really taught me how to balance food and really utilize food to fuel your own body. And so I feel like that's where I kind of started learning about macronutrients, and knowing how many calories that I should be eating as a competitive athlete. So I learned a lot with Jordan, and I feel like with what I learned from her, not only as a nutrition coach, but knew what she was doing was already something I was doing at my full-time job at Unite. And so it's just like, if I'm going to leave Unite, I could totally do this nutrition thing as well. So I kind of just organically grew into this own thing, that I was kind of referred to as the person at Salty Hive as the nutrition person, just because we didn't really have anybody. It's just like we talked about nutrition, but we never like offered anything super specific. And so I thought it was just a good opportunity for me to kind of start my own thing with working with clients. Because even when I was personal training at Vasa, people would come up to me and be like, what are you eating every day? Or what do you eat on a daily basis? And I feel like it was just like I had the knowledge. I had the knowledge, but I guess I didn't have the certification that kind of held me back of like, I don't feel like I can give people advice if I don't have something to back it up. It's like, yes, I've experienced nutrition on my own, and you know, whatever that's in my own personal life, or I've done my own research, but I never had anything to back that up. So that's when I started following Working Against Gravity, and I've always liked their way of like how they do things, or like how they believe in nutrition, regarding like it should be balanced, and it shouldn't be too restrictive of your lifestyle. And I think that that's so important with nutrition and your own life. It's like I want you to be able to enjoy food and not be so restrictive when it comes to your nutrition. So once I got certified, I feel like that really opened up a lot more opportunity, because I felt more confident that I could be like, I am a certified nutrition coach to like help you with what you might need. I feel like, again, I learned a lot from what Jordan did. Justin dabbled a little bit with nutrition coaching as well. And I feel like me and Justin have had a number of conversations of what it could look like when working with a nutrition client. So I feel like the biggest part of that is like learning as you go, because each person is different and they all have different experiences. And I think that it's not like a one size fits all. So I always try and meet a client where they are, and then kind of take them on a road depending on where their goals are. And I think that with my experience at Unite, most of the people at Unite were there to lose weight. And so I would say, not that that's like a specialty to me, but that's something that I'm more confident. Like I would feel more confident in somebody asking me to help them lose 20 pounds versus an athlete coming and being like, how do I feel for your exercise? Now I think that I could do both, but in the beginning, I just felt more comfortable with trying to get somebody started with their nutrition versus somebody who already has a background in nutrition and making sure that they are fueling appropriately. So I guess kind of how it works with my nutrition coaching, I usually schedule a consultation. I would sit down, usually it takes 45 minutes or so, and I just try to get to know that person as much as I can in that time frame. What their lifestyle is, what their new eating habits are, what their training style is, and then of course what their goals are. And then depending on what that is, we make weekly and daily goals. And then with those weekly and daily goals, we do check-ins. Those check-ins could be every single week. Those check-ins could be every other week, just depends on how frequently people want to meet with me. And I tell all of my clients, it's like most people know what's good and what's bad nutrition. What I'm really doing is holding you accountable. It's so nice to know that, or I don't know if I'd say nice to know, but you're more likely to make a better decision when it comes to your nutrition or just your health in general, knowing that you have to report back to somebody about it.
Sure, absolutely.
And so I feel like that's why you can be successful, or why I've been successful as a nutrition coach, is I hold people accountable to what their goals are. If you say that you want to eat 3 meals that have 20 grams of protein in each of them, and you're not doing that, I'll probably call you out and be like, okay, not necessarily call you out, but why aren't we getting there? How can we do a better job at trying to get enough protein throughout the day, or whatever their goals might be? So I would say that's the biggest part, is like, of course, we're going to talk about your goals, what you're looking for when it comes to your nutrition, and then, but the biggest part I would say is like the accountability part.
Nice, okay.
I was like, does that answer
Yes,
it?
absolutely. Something you kind of went into in that talk is you were talking about you were training to be an athlete, and now you are on a different path. You're starting a family. Yay, surprise! Trish is pregnant.
If you don't know!
She's pregnant. What was it like for you to go from athlete to like completely 180 mindset shift to now like mom?
Yeah.
I guess.
I don't know if I'm quite in the mom figure
Not
yet,
yet.
but we'll get there. We'll get
that?
there. Yeah, so I mean, I've been a competitive athlete for a really long time. I would say CrossFit. I would say I've been competitive, but I really didn't start training to compete until like 2021. And a big part of like one of the reasons why I made the adjustment to leave Unite was to kind of take on training, because it's just like working a full-time job and coaching and helping run a business. It's like I just didn't like really have the time or the energy to train as a competitor. And so when I left Unite, so that was in, I think, 2021, that's when I kind of turned and flipped a switch of like, okay, this is where we're gonna kind of buckle down and like train really hard. And at the time, not that we never thought about having kids, but it just like, that is years down the road. Like that's not even on my radar right now. Like I'm gonna kind of, and I guess the word that comes to mind is like take advantage of my youth and take advantage of my strengths and just like my overall fitness. And so I would say that I was pretty competitive from 2021 till, let's say, 2024. And for some reason, I always had 30 in my head of like, we're not going to talk about having babies until I'm 30. And then once I'm 30, it will be more of an open discussion. So I would say last year, well, what year did we go to semifinals? In 2023. I feel like that was a really motivating year to just be like we got to a place that I was very proud of to get to, and we accomplished this thing. And it was just like, I just wanted more from that. It's just like, now what? It's like, we've been to semifinals as a team. Could I get there as an individual? So that was kind of like, all right, I'll be turning 30 in the year 2024. So I kind of used that year as like my last hurrah of like, I'm going to push it as much as I can for this last year. But I just think that there's so many more younger athletes coming into the circle, and it's just like, as you get older, training gets harder. And so I think that last year, not that it like put me over the edge, but it was like towards the end of 2024, I was like slowly fizzling out of like, okay, like I think that I'm like ready to kind of take a break. And not to use it like pregnancy as an excuse, but I'm like, if I got pregnant, that's the perfect time for me to like step back. Because I think a part of me was like, I didn't want to use anything as an excuse of like, I'm just going to not train really hard this year. I felt like, again, I guess having an excuse of like why I'm not training seemed much easier mentally versus just like not training. So as I kind of worked through my last year as like a competitive athlete, did we do TFX that year?
Our last year?
Yeah.
No. This last year just happened? No, I don't think so. That was the year before that we did that. And
so we did, I guess I feel like I kind of burned myself out of a handful of competitions from a previous year, and maybe it was the same year we did semifinals, but it's like then we did NCC. I did NCC as an individual, and then the next year I think that I just got really bummed after the open season because it's like they had, and then maybe we had expectations that we would go to semifinals again, and then we ended up not going. And then me not making it as an individual was just kind of devastating. And so I feel like seeing how much work you can put in and not necessarily get the outcome that you're wanting is just hard. And so I feel like that just kind of added up over the year. And so then we did NCC as a team. And then we went to DCC. And I feel like the only reason I made it to DCC is because I know one of the event organizers. And so it's just like, we've known each other. He was actually a judge at semifinals, and that's kind of how he knew about Salty Hive. But then he was at my level 2, and we had some interactions during that weekend. And he had brought up, like, are you going to do DCC? And so then I kind of felt like I needed to do DCC. And I think just getting into that, by the time we did DCC in the fall of 2024, I was just kind of over competing. And it was just a lot of like question of like, what's next? And I think that just kind of in mine and Justin's phase in life, it's just like people start to have kids when they turn 30 or when they're in their 30s, or we've been married for 5 years now. So it's just like, not that we're trying to roll with what everyone else is doing, but I think that we were just ready for that next phase in our life. And it wasn't necessarily something that we had planned for. It just kind of happened. And I think that it was just like, I think that that's a sign that it's supposed to happen. And so it was just like, after DCC, we had a couple of conversations of like, we could get pregnant, like what's that going to look like? And honestly, we had kind of thought that it would take a long time. We're like, we could try and it take months or years. And so it's just like, we might as well start trying. And then it was just like, well, that happened a lot faster than expected. So I feel like I'm still kind of in this phase of like, learning my body. I'm 6 months pregnant now. And so it's just like, we found out we were pregnant in the middle of January. So that was like right before the open. If you're part of Salty Hive, you know that we announced that we were pregnant over the open. But I feel like a big part of that, or maybe a motivation to do that, was I've been a competitive athlete. People know what I'm capable of doing in here. And if I come in and do the open and I don't even try, I feel like there would be a lot of like question marks, I guess, of like what's going on with Trish or something happening. So I was just like, we thought that it would be a good time to tell people like, this is why I haven't been doing or preparing for the open. So I feel like I've started making this journey and I've actually really enjoyed it, mostly because like I haven't been sick. I've been mostly feeling good. I've continued to come into the gym 5 days a week. And that's very intentional just because I know how much better I'm going to feel being in the gym, coming to the gym, even if I'm not able to do some of the same things. So I think that we still have a ways to go of like, one, finishing pregnancy, going through birthing a baby, and then changing our life with having a baby or a small person. Sure. So I think that that's definitely something that we'll continue to learn as we go. But I feel like what I'm, I guess, most excited for is like I have been able to take a step back, and again, I don't know, call it an excuse, call it whatever you need to, but it's just like being pregnant is like...
Brett, I'm gonna sneeze. You have to cut this part out. Pause.
Please.
Can I turn off my microphone for this?
No.
Can you what? Oh. We're excited about having a baby. Yeah.
Okay. You're most excited about changing your life to have a baby.
Yeah. Action. And we're back. Yeah, I think I'm just excited for the transition. And I don't know if I would call it like an excuse, but it's just like it's been really nice to take a step back. I feel like I've joked with a handful of people, like, it's been really nice to scale workouts and not have to worry about, you know, going super fast or lifting super heavy. It's just like I can kind of come in, like the stress is kind of taken out of training. And I feel like I've learned to appreciate training a little bit more. Not that I like hated training, but there was definitely days where it was just like, I know I can go heavy, so I have to go heavy, or I know I can go fast. And so I feel like there was kind of unnecessary pressures that were put on myself coming into train each and every day. But now it's just like, I'm just coming in and like doing my thing.
Yeah, I bet that is nice, especially after 3 years of like that like unnecessary pressure.
Yeah,
I guess.
And I think that, and I have not been at the highest level of competing, but it's just like, you put a lot of time and energy and effort into, I wouldn't even say just your training, just your life, because it's like you're prioritizing your sleep, you're prioritizing your nutrition, you're prioritizing your mobility, and then you're prioritizing your you're actually training what you're doing in the gym. Mm-hmm. So it's just like those are 4 big things that are taking up the time and energy, and it's just like that's not including, you know, the stress that you might put on yourself or the job that you're doing. It's just like we were still running a business. I was still working with nutrition clients, so it's just like I feel like that was just a lot of stress. Not that it was unnecessary, but it was a lot more stress than what I think people realize. And I think that like the respect that I have for like some of the high competitive athletes, it's just like, I don't get how they do it. I mean, they obviously do it, and I think that definitely they're gifted in a different way, but it's just like, I don't think that people realize how much work gets put into being a competitive athlete. And so I think that especially trying to be a competitive athlete and not being as good as I wanted to be was just hard. And
it's so crazy because you're crazy good. It's insane how good some of those athletes are.
It is. And I think that, and maybe just kind of going back to like my last CrossFit experience or my last competition experience down at DCC, I was the oldest in my division, in the elite division. And that was just like, I mean, I didn't do bad, but I also didn't do great. And so it's just like in my head, I guess I didn't do as well as I had hoped. And so it's just like, I feel like I just got in my head a lot of like, I'm the oldest one here. And it was just like, I kind of just pouted about that, which is just silly. And I feel like that was just kind of a good time for me to like, all right, this is my chance to like leave the competitive side of things. And who knows if I'll come back to competing. Right now, I have zero desire to compete. What we've kind of joked about is like 30 to 35 is like baby year, you know? So it's just like we're becoming new parents. Baby for now. We'll start with one. Baby. But then it's just like I could make a comeback for the Masters when I turn 35. But yeah, that's been a conversation where it's just like, what is that going to look like? Do we have a baby and immediately a second baby? I have no idea. It's just like, I'm going to get through baby. I'm going to get through baby number 1. Yes, pregnancy has been smooth, but I feel like the last 3 months are not going to be that fun. And I feel like you just never know how postpartum is going to affect you. And I feel like I've had a number of friends who have made a comeback, but I also have friends who've really struggled after pregnancy. So it's just like, I don't know how it's going to be. I would like to hope that I will be back, but it's just like, it's hard to say how quickly somebody will bounce back. And right now I just don't have the desire to compete. So we're going to stay with that.
Good. Yeah. What was I going to say here? That you're cutting this too, Brett, because this is not good. I'm not at my peak right now. What are you most excited for about starting a family?
I feel like just creating new adventures. I feel like dogs are not the same as kids, but it's just like, I feel like when we first got Azul, it was like, what are we going to do with Azul? Like, we're going to take her camping. And then it was like, now we have Buster's, Azul's little friend. So I feel like it's like, I want to just do those experiences with our own kid, and like try and give them as much, I don't know if I would say, it's hard to say what to experience, but I also think about the lifestyle that this little dude is going to have is like, his parents own a gym. So it's like, he's going to be here a lot. And so I think that just, it's exciting to kind of know what his lifestyle is going to be growing up. And especially as it's like, until they get to the age where they would go to school, it's like we've considered doing like homeschool or anything like that. So it's like, that's going to be a whole new learning curve. And I think that as we have a kid, me and Justin are also going to be learning to be parents. It's like, we've never been a parent, and so it's just, we'll learn kind of along the way. I don't think anybody really knows how to be a parent until you have a kid. And so I think that I think I'm excited to become a parent, and I'm excited to just like we have a family, but it's just like, I feel like a baby kind of brings a family more together, if that makes sense.
You're adding more to the family.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you guys decided on a name? You don't have to tell us. If you have, you don't have to say it, but I thought for the fans.
We've been calling the baby Chuck. I don't know if that's official. That could definitely change. But yeah, we've kind of gone back and forth. Full name would be Charles Francis, I think, is the last what we've talked about. And I think that we've liked it because, and this is very nerdy, but like CF would be his
CFZ?
CFZ. So that has like nothing to, we did not name Charles Francis for CrossFit, but it was just a funny coincidence. And then we just like the name Chuck. So we'll see if that sticks. It might be something completely different in 5 months once we have the baby.
Yeah.
But that's what we're going with so far.
I love it. That's exciting. Well, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah.
I don't know how to end this. You're going to have to do a lot of editing on this one. I'm really sorry. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us and talking about your journey, your nutrition, and your future. We really appreciate it. I'm sure the Salty Hive enjoys to hear from you and all the things. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. God, I am rough this morning, this afternoon. That was tough. You might have to cut me out a little bit. You should just cut me out of the whole thing. She did awesome.
I feel like I rambled.